Hey guys, welcome to a new video. I'm DJ V.a.r and today I'm going to show you how you can turn pretty much any audio sample into a bass. It can also be in some cases a gritty bass or sort of like a wavetable-ish kind of bass. It depends, of course, on the material, on the sample you're working on, and but overall it sounds, you can make it sound pretty gritty if you wanted to, especially if you use then distortion after doing what we're going to do. So I just picked up this sample in particular. It's a vocal, but really you can use anything, a pad, a drum loop, or a sound effect, or whatever. Really, you can use anything. So the sample is going to sound like this.
Oh.
And let's just start saying what we have to do. So let's create a new MIDI track, and to do that you just press on your keyboard Control-Shift-T, and that is going to create a new MIDI track for us. So we want to then go here, Instruments, and drop in an instrument track into this new made MIDI track, and inside this instrument track we want to drop in a simpler. So let's just go ahead and open our macro view. So we have the instrument track and simpler pretty much ready to go in action now. So but before we do that, we have to sort of just edit our sample a little bit. You see at the beginning there is a bit of a silence. We don't really want that, we don't care, so we just go into the audio editor of Ableton Live, which is this bottom bit here, turn on the warp feature, and zoom into the first sort of transient of the sample, and say set 1.1.1 here. So that's just going to set the starting point right on that point. I'm just gonna reduce the length, the end of it, because we don't really care. So once we've done that, let's just right click on the sample clip, and we can just go ahead and say consolidate, or hit Control-J on our keyboard, and that's going to consolidate our sample. So that next thing is I'm going to get out of the automation view in Ableton and get rid of this starting fade, because that's otherwise going to mess up with our sample. And now we want to go into our MIDI, the MIDI track we created before with simpler in it, and just drag and drop the sample in there, and that's going to load the sample inside it. So once we've done that, we can just delete the audio track we've had before. And now what you have to make sure is that the warp feature inside a simpler is turned off, and since this is going to be a bass, I just want to make this monophonic. Turn the snapping feature off and turn looping on, and let's just go ahead and assign these 4 very important parameters of simpler into our macro. So let's just click map, set the sample start to macro 1, loop length to macro 2, loop length to 3, and fade to 4. I'm also going to do the frequency because I like that, so yeah. And then click map again on instrument track to get out of the mapping. So now what we want to do is set the attack of the envelope a little bit up to about 0.3 milliseconds, so that is going to actually get rid of the sort of snapping attack that we hear when we hit the notes. That's going to make it a little bit smoother, which is good. I'm also going to get rid of the velocity to volume, which is of course the velocity when you hit a note. I don't really care about that in this example. If you have a sample that doesn't play a C note, you can easily transpose it here with the transpose up or down, and you can of course make it consistent with your MIDI keyboard or whatever you have. I would like to introduce some glide as well. and 50, yeah, 40, 50 millisecond works pretty well. Let's see. Oh yeah, I would like to bring the resonance of the filter quite a bit up to around 50%, and that's going to sound nice when we sweep the frequency cutoff of the filter up or down in the frequency. So let's just play around and see when we tweak these four knobs what happens. So now when I hit the note, it's just going to loop over and over. And now, oh, sorry. Okay, and now when I bring the sample length down, which is the third knob on instrument track, the macro 3, that's going to loop over and over faster and faster. Until it eventually, when we go really, really down, it sounds like it starts to sound more like a waveform or a wavetable kind of thingy, you know? So yeah, that's how we can do it. And of course, we can now change the sample start and experiment with different areas of the sample. Now, in my case, because the sample is pretty much uniform, it doesn't quite change as much in pitch or tone. That's gonna sound pretty stable. But if you have, say, like a sound effect or really pitch shifting sort of audio sample, then in your case you might want to experiment with different sections of your sample to get really different results accordingly. And so now but I like this first bit especially, or this first area anyway. What we can do is like notice when I bring the sample loop length down, what it's going to sound like. So it's as I bring this down, the pitch is going to of the pitch of the sound is going to actually increase, and it's going to sound a bit like tuning an analog synthesizer or something like that. So yeah, it sounds a bit funny, but yeah, you can really sort of get your own tone this way. So I would like to bring maybe some experiment with some sample loop fading to maybe smoothen out a little bit. I'm also going to bring the volume up because it sounds a bit weak. So here we go now without the fade. With the filter cut off, maybe. And there you have it. That's pretty much it. Now we can also change like the sample start to see maybe with different areas of the sample and see what it sounds like. Whoops, I might have to reduce my volume here because the waveform, of course, has more amplitude in that section than the very first bit. So yeah, I mean, you can really hear how, based on different sections of the sample, it really sounds different because, of course, of the harmonics and the waveforms. But if I had a different audio sample to play with around here, that this would sound totally different, and it already sounds a really nice bass, really nice and sort of bitey and a bit of aggressive as well. Why not? Of course, you can make it even more aggressive. This bass, if you wanted to, you could add all kinds of effects after this. You can add EQ, you can compress it, you can add all kinds of distortion plugins, or delays, whatever other thing you want to do. You're free to make it. But I mean, already in its own, it sounds like a pretty cool bass sound. Also, a cool thing you can do is like maybe introduce some LFO onto sort of sample and hold sort of random shape. Sync it to a clock. I'm going to set it to 1/8 of a note, and I'm going to let this LFO affect maybe a bit of the filter cutoff. So something around maybe 18. I don't know what it is. I mean, this bass already sounds really nice. It has a bit of an analog feel to it. It sounds sort of creamy. I don't know. Check this out. Especially when we play around, of course, with the filter cutoff, because of the resonance, it sounds even more creamy. So yeah, it sounds really cool, and that is your bass made from a vocal sample. Of course, you can save your instrument track. This whole thing that we made now, you can just save it into your library. So I'm going to rename the instrument track to, I don't know, analogish sort of bass from vocal. And to save it, you just click this floppy disk icon and rename it if you want to, but you don't really need to because you already renamed it before, and then press enter on your keyboard, and that's it. It saved it. So now we can just get rid of say I deleted it, so I don't have to do it all again. I can just drag it and drop it back into the MIDI track, and everything will be there ready to rock. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell icon to stay notified for any future videos I upload on my channel. So thank you again, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.